Challenge time. You have 1 year to sell $10 million worth of real estate, and you have a marketing budget of zero. How are you going to do it? Sounds impossible, but my guest today, Sam Medvene, does not think so. Thank you for joining us today, Sam.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, so I know all about you, but if you could tell the good people at home watching this video about Sam Medvene, how you got started, what your business looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started completely by accident. I had no real initial intention of being a full-time realtor, and essentially things lined up and ended up being a passion, and have a background in construction. Family is both parents were entrepreneurs, and then led into exploring, trying to find a way to live in DC, and it was too expensive at the time, and being a new grad. So I kind of jumped on the coattail of my older brother, and we ended up started buying places and using our construction background to be able to start buying and selling places for us to merely be able to live in places we wanted at a lower cost. And from that, ended up spiraling into other friends and family asking. And my uncle, who's a huge mentor of mine, Mark Dosick, who's also with Redwood, also said, "Hey, I'm super busy. Kind of come on along." And that was back in 2017, and haven't looked back. Jumped all in. I was going to do part-time, and he said full-time or no time. And I was like, well, I honestly didn't have anything else lined up at the time, and was like, well, I'm all in. And so since then, it's been fantastic.
So you're an accidental realtor. Walk me through when you first got licensed. Was that so that you could earn the compensation on the home you were going to purchase anyways? Was that the initial motivation?
So it was to help the bottom line of what we were doing with the buyer agent commission, and then on the out sale as well, because at the time I was like, how hard could it be to buy or sell a home? It's probably super easy and I could do it in my sleep. I was really wrong now looking back. But yeah, that was the initial concept and idea. I did it when I was still working.
Okay, that's great. I didn't know that about you, and now I do. And you are one of many agents who I know that are top performers that got into the business that way. So you have this concept of passively breaking through the $10 million mark. Can you tell me in detail what that's about?
Yeah, so I think everybody, if it's a full-time, focus and job being taken as a realtor, I think it's super easy for us as realtors to not necessarily work full-time or be able to not take it as a business, which we all run small businesses. I think at a full-time small business focus, it's feasible to not spend any dollars and be able to do $10 million worth of annual sales. And I think so just by tracking and measuring a lot of the principles that Redwood Growth Academy, as well as you, Sean, and Nick instill in us, being able to just be disciplined, having a business plan, and being able to be organized with your lead pillars. And I think it's right there in front of you. It's just actually doing the work.
I love it. I love the concept. That's why I gave the video the title, right? 10 million in sales, $0 in marketing. But when we break it down, your annual sales are perennially, above 30 million. And so you're obviously generating, it would sound like, about 20 million from pay, things that you feel like you're paying for. Is that fair?
I would say I would average, if I wasn't to pay for anything, I'm probably around 20 million a year. And then the extra 10, 15 or so, depending on where I land, hopefully, 20 and beyond, is where that extra paid sort of lead pillars and activities come in for me based on just the maturity of where I'm at with past clients and sphere and referrals.
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about the $0 marketing is, aside from your time, which, look, with your level of expertise is very valuable, you're 100% profit margin. You talked about tracking, measuring. That's all music to my ears, especially this time of year when we're getting geared up for our November business planning that we do every year. If you could give us a breakdown of your annual sales in terms of lead pillars, what percent comes from where do you see the bulk of your sales?
Yeah, the bulk of my sales are from past clients, my sphere, and then from agent-to-agent referrals are the bulk of my sales. I would probably say, referrals would be from past clients in my sphere is a good 65% of my business. It's a solid chunk. And then I would say agent to agent's about 20%. And then I would say the rest of the 10, 15 are from various activities that would be from whether it's hosting events or open houses or creating and building my own inventory from my own projects. That's kind of where everything has kind of lined up year over year for me. As much as I predict one thing being one way and trying to build one in another, it statistically ends up being plus or minus within that 5% of each.
Yeah. So from our regular calls, I look at your business, pretty closely. And something that I've always really admired about you is how your sphere just seems like it continuously grows. And a lot of that has to do with social media and how you seem to be, and you tell me if this is reality, but you seem to be constantly meeting friends of friends, that people that know you, not necessarily naturally through physical interaction, but through Facebook, Instagram, social media.
Yeah, a lot of my sphere that watches me will send my stuff to their sphere and say, you've got to talk to this guy. And then I'm a huge believer in showing up, meaning if clients and or friends or family, because for me, I view it all the same way. I run my business like everybody's family to me, and they're trusting me with a huge thing, which is buying or selling their home. It's a massive asset so being able to have that built-in trust and treat it that way as if it's like my brother, my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather, whatever it may be, is just, I think, a big distinction. And I always show up if they invite me for birthday parties or to, engagement parties or, babies' birthdays or whatever. Like I always show up.
All right. So here's the fun question. Imagine this. I blindfold you, Sam. I put you on an airplane and I drop you off in a strange city. And then I give you 1 year to sell $10 million worth of real estate. How do you make that happen?
Well, it sounds like a fun experiment we should try sometime. Do I get to choose the city?
You don't, but I will tell you that it'll have an average sales price more or less similar to the DC area.
Okay, that was going to be the only caveat. Sometimes it's, across the country, some people's average sales are around the 200, 250, which is, usually a third of what we are. But okay, so my immediate actions would be immediately leveraging the listings that I don't have from other agents. So open houses was a big thing, $0 activity, being able to be a win-win. The other agent wants to market their listing. And a lot of times big listers and big teams that have a bunch of listings can't hold all of their opens. So I would go and I would lobby to be able to say, hey, can I market your listing and maybe bring you a buyer? And I would be doing at least 2 every weekend, if not double headers.
Okay. 2 open houses a weekend. All right. What else are you going to? We got to get to 10 million in that first year.
Yep. I would then become a local and a regular at various shops. So meaning partnering with small businesses to just be able to say, hey, is there anything I can do? Can I also shoot potential content for you and with you and leave my information with you? So from the coffee shops and making it consistent. So I think the consistency and the habits are a big thing. I would sit in a coffee shop every day and I would be the same one with a sign saying your local realtor. And just be the guy there that everybody's like, wow, he's here every morning from 8 until 9. And even though it's kind of cheesy, I'd self-brand. I'd have T-shirts for myself. I'd have all sorts of stuff. And so everybody in town would get to know me as I'm the one who's actively buying and selling real estate.
And since we have a $0 budget, I'm assuming you're going to use your iPhone to shoot this footage, and then you're going to probably edit it in what, like
I do the majority
Canva
of my
or something?
content. Exactly. I do the majority of my content with my iPhone. So I've just started doing some professional stuff, but the majority of my content is me just looking silly with my iPhone and the quality of the camera now. And I use Canva, like you said, and there's also new AI technologies that'll actually edit it for you. And I'm just starting to get into this, but you don't even potentially need all the fancy schmancy stuff. I've tried doing that. I thought about buying cameras. I just don't use it. So I've already got a phone. I'm using it for my daily life and I shoot my content with it.
Okay, this is fun. So I'm gonna expand on it. Tell me if this would fit in. Okay, so what if the people you meet on social media, at the coffee shop, in the open houses, understood, here's how I got here. I was dropped off by this strange man, Eddie Barenbaum, and I only have 1 year to sell $10 million worth of real estate. I would love your assistance with introductions to your friends. Hey, look, just so you know, I'm a 30 plus million dollar producer back where I came from, and I want to get back there. And then what I think we would do in that instance, it'd be weird for people to hear, but the thing is, people want to help you. When you bring up to people, this is what I'm doing, this is my situation, I find that when they trust you, and I know people inherently trust you, Sam, they want to help you. Does that make sense?
It does. And I mean, if I'm it's really not fair if I'm able to lean on my previous experiences going into stuff. I agree with you. I'd be able to then have so much more capabilities, but I'm doing the mindset of if I was new and going into a brand new area, how would I approach this? Because there's a lot of new agents that are coming into the industry or individuals that are transferring from, I think we're in such a crazy industry where people have 2-3 previous careers before they come into real estate. So by being able to essentially say, I'm starting from ground zero, but they're really not. All that previous experience in life and contacts isn't starting from zero. That's timeless relationships, and relationships in pipeline is the gold. I don't focus on how many deals I'm closing a month. I really don't. I focus on how many active people can I get into my pipeline and in my sphere to then be able to, when they are ready, to essentially be able to be present for that decision and be there for that conversation.
Okay. Anything else you need to do to get past that $10 million mark, or between open houses, posting on social media from a constant space, and making sure that you're that physical presence? Anything else you'd pull into your marketing plan?
I would become the new listing specialist. So what a lot of people, one of the ideas that I personally have been able to be lazy about is for new construction. A lot of the new construction homes and builders don't do anything. They have, they've got websites, but that's about it. They don't actually feature their stuff. They don't know. And a lot of the consumer doesn't know if you could say this is a Ryan Holmes, development. I would be going to all of these places, and then they're like, wow, this person knows every one of these communities and is the listing specialist and real estate specialist and all of this. So I would just be the marketing specialist of all of the existing inventory in the area to the point where they can't not see me. Like it literally would be impossible.
You're basically creating your own inventory before you have your own inventory.
Right.
All right. Anything else?
I would get into, I'm a huge believer in vertically integrated scenarios. So I would find things I'm passionate about. I like sports. So this is not necessarily $0. It may be something, maybe $50-$60 for a season, joining a kickball team or joining a book club. I would be finding 3 activities that I enjoy inherently, that I'm passionate about, that would be common ground for me to be able to connect with locals on. And I'm sure there are local free groups in each one of these, from alumni chapters to like I said, kickball or rec sports, or sporting events, or just watch parties. You don't need to spend money at the watch parties. You can go and be a part of that, and they're just only stacking the cards in your favor. So those would be my big things that I would do.
I love it. And look, I think we're staying true to the organic question in saying it's for free, because you're probably playing kickball anyways. You're probably going to watch Penn State, Ohio State this coming weekend,
or the Commanders.
Yeah. So if you're with your peeps, and then you're wearing your swag that you would have done anyways, that's how you're growing it. Okay.
Right.
Now let's make the answer even easier. So imagine that you get to do everything we just described, right? You have the same mission, $10 million worth of sales, but you get to do that in your hometown, right? How much easier does it get being able to leverage, your own sphere of influence that you did not have when you're in the new place?
You've already got built-in contacts. You've got built-in market knowledge. You've got built-in, as easy as it gets. I kind of relate it to, it's easy, but hard because you've got this a little bit of fear built in of, well, what if I say the wrong thing, or what if I don't do well, and I don't want to mess with my existing relationships, my existing community. And it's like this hard hump to get over initially. But then after that, again, if I go to a party with my friends, and let's just say it's a Friendsgiving, I would say a good 80% of the people there, it's probably at a house I sold to a friend, and 80% of the people at that party have either bought or sold real estate with me. And it's fantastic. It's a built-in level of trust. So I think by purposefully and intentfully having those conversations and saying, listen, I'm here to help and this is what I'm doing. And if I can, you're going to be buying and selling anyway. It's a life event that happens with almost everybody, right? I would say the vast majority. And how do you put yourself making sure that you're out front for that conversation to at least say, hey, I'm thinking about this. Let's just have a conversation. And then it leads to opportunities. So I think it just gets immensely easier because as long as you're putting yourself out there.
Yep. Put yourself out there, it gets immensely easier. All right. So we are currently, right now, we're in what I would describe as a low inventory, higher interest rate environment. Does that change the game plan for you at all to get to $10 million worth of sales with $0 in marketing?
It does. I mean, let's be honest, it's hard right now. And I think it's okay to acknowledge that it's, if I was a consumer, I always put myself in my client's shoes. Like if we go back 3 years ago, that monthly payment for the same house is nearly doubled because interest rates are doubled. And that's something completely out of our control. So I think coming with empathy and being and understanding the specific criteria of each of your clients is the biggest piece of this, and knowing that it's okay sometimes if it doesn't financially fit and their, let's say, a down payment isn't quite there to reach the monthly goal. To be like, I'm finding a lot more that I'm having clients be in more of the prep phase to be able to maybe even rent that home for a year so that they're in a better long-term situation. So the life cycle is just extended immensely from both buyers and sellers, depending on where and what, because some sub-communities are still getting multiples and selling immediately. And then other areas, for example, the condo market in DC, for example, is taking much longer. Just because there's a smaller demand, and hopefully that does change. But I think understanding what community you're in, understanding that specific asset, and then the client needs is it's just a longer cycle. So it is harder. So I've been focusing on just filling that pipeline. How many people can I get into my life? And then knowing that at various points when it's ready for them, I'm going to be there to be able to help.
Yes. I love it, building the pipeline, because that is what agents need to be doing right now. Okay. I want to dive into two things you said there, Sam. First of all, we're not pressuring people into buying a home that doesn't work for them.
Right.
Second of all, we're having conversations, probably more conversations than we'd be having normally, because we know the relationships that we're fostering, the people we're helping now in 2023, maybe into 2024, when this market bursts in a good way, rates come down, people feel more comfortable, this thing's going to explode. And the actions that you take today are going to pay off 5x, 10x in the future.
Yep.
Does that resonate?
Yep. I have people reach out that I haven't talked to for, or that originally, said, hey, we're going to buy. And it was like 5 years ago. But because of the groundwork and the seed that I planted and the invites to my client events and them being able to stay connected with me on social, acting as if I'm always connected, then they reach out and I'm like, holy crap. Like, yeah, I'm here. And again, I'm the first to admit I'm not calling every single person in my database, and I'm human. But what I do well is that I put things in place for them to be in my life and my sphere, to where my everyday activities are still being sent out to everybody, so that it is like I'm inviting them, that they are seeing my updates. I'm still active in the industry, so that then that essentially feels like I am reaching out, but it's passively from me.
All right, I want to end with a specific question, Sam. Somebody buys a home in the next 3 months, so say Q4 2023. How is that person likely feeling about their purchase in Q4 2030?
Great question. I think that they feel great, because time is the real asset in real estate. It's not, it's so easy to get caught up in the noise of the industry right now with, home values skyrocketing and interest rates skyrocketing, monthly payments skyrocketing. And that's such a small, limited window view versus the long-term benefits of home ownership. And tried and true over, a century, real estate is one of the best investments and best factors of what a family's wealth is over time, tried and true above anything else. And so if that time goes into a lot of factors that we could go into otherwise, but as a whole, time is your benefit and is your best friend in real estate. And I think it's one of those things where in between that time, if interest rates come down, then they're able to refinance. Like there's a lot of other factors in that, but as a whole, I think it's going to change the trajectory of their wealth and the opportunities for that individual moving forward for the rest of their life.
That's certainly been the case for me. All right. How's that person feeling Q4 2024? That might be a harder question.
It is. Man, I wish I had a crystal ball. I really do. I always tell clients it's really difficult within a year, essentially, to be able to essentially predict. And most clients, are you asking if they were to sell within a year or just how they would feel?
No, how they feel about the purchase. So that means largely where's their value? If they could, when they look around at the other homes that sold in their neighborhood, could they have maybe gotten a home that they would have preferred? That kind of question.
Yeah, I think that all comes into legwork and prep work. So if you do all of your legwork on the front end when you're evaluating essentially and looking at homes, so making sure you're educating and they find a home that they love, I don't think they're really going to micro focus on stuff like that, because it's similar to, for me, it's like a vehicle. I walk in front of my vehicle and every morning when I see it, I don't think of how much that car was, or I just envision, I'm like, I'm really happy to be in this space and I enjoy this space and it makes me smile. And I think that tapping into the emotion is a priceless, where those other factors don't matter. So hopefully rates do come down and then they feel great because if that happens, then the values are going to skyrocket and then they get to refinance already having the asset. But if they don't, and if there's a bubble, then I've already prepped them for 5 to 8 years worth of ownership. And I think that time aspect is what essentially is allowing them to be able to always be in a good shape. But if they emotionally are tapped into the house, I don't think you can go wrong.
Agreed. I asked you the hard question because I know that you're the person to answer it. Thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with everybody. And we'll put Sam's contact information on the screen right now so that everybody can reach out. Thanks.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome being here again.